Hi, folks, and welcome to the Meaningful Money Podcast. This is Season 15, Episode 7. This is the podcast dedicated to helping you put your finances in order. My name is Pete Matthew, and I'm going to share with you everything you need to know and everything you need to do to secure your financial future. I'm here to help you make sense of money. Here we go. Great to have you with me. Welcome to another Meaningful Money podcast. Now, over the past few weeks, we've been looking at setting goals, building plans to achieve those goals, but working towards financial independence can take a while. I think we've established that by now. And you need to know whether or not you're on track as you go along. And you do that by having a robust review process in place. No good just carrying on and hoping that when the time comes, you hope to have achieved your goals by that time. You kind of cross your fingers and hope you get there. No, you need to keep an eye on things as you go along. So that's what we're going to be talking about today. As usual, after the main body, I'll read a review that's been left, talk about what we're going to be discussing next time, news of the next meetup as well. So stay tuned at the end for that. But before any of that, remember this podcast continues to be brought to you with the help of my friends at Seven Investment Management. They've been helping me out on here since the spring of 2011, which shows incredible commitment on their behalf. So I'm really grateful to them for doing that. Please do check out what they're up to. They're at 7im.co.uk. That's the number 7im.co.uk. And don't forget the Meaningful Money branded self-investment platform that 7im have built. So if you're looking to get started investing, or maybe just invest somewhere different to where you normally do, check it out. meaningfulmoney.tv/podcastinvest. All the information you need about that is on that page. Capital at risk, folks, you know the drill. Okay. Like I say, the last thing you would want to happen is to be sort of merrily working your way towards your goals and then get near to the time that you hope to reach them and then find out that actually you're nowhere near. That would be disastrous. Can you imagine? Sorry, I'm afraid you're going to have to work for another 8 years longer than you thought you would. Bad luck. Oh dear. And yet this is the approach that so many people take with their wealth building. They kind of set things up once with what they kind of hope is the right strategy, or they just, invest in the default fund in their workplace pension. That's what most people do. And then maybe they look at their pension statement once a year. They have no idea what that's going to build up to. They have no idea what that money amount on the page actually means for them in terms of retirement income. But that's not you, is it? Right? You're here to be intentional and to take this stuff seriously. So let's just look at how I would structure a review of my own plans and my own portfolio and stuff, and then progress against those plans, okay? So notes, links, all the stuff that you need to remember, they're at the show notes, and you only need to remember one link, meaningfulmoney.tv/PP7. That's for Planning with Purpose, Episode 7. That's the name of this season, if you just happen to have dropped in here. So definitely go and listen to the previous 6 episodes if you haven't already. meaningfulmoney.tv/PP7. Hate it when I do that. Triggered the sound effect a little bit too early. Not going to edit it out. Let's put it in again just for, effect. This is everything you need to know. So we need to remember first what we're trying to achieve, right? We are reviewing what exactly? Well, progress. Progress towards what? Towards your goals. That's what. So we are head down, grafting, saving and investing towards building up a sum of money and or secured income sources so that we can achieve FI one day, financial independence. So the review is our chance to kind of lift our heads up from the grindstone a little bit and to look again at the target, which may be a greater or lesser way into the distance. It's a valuable exercise in keeping focus simply because it reminds us of the reasons why we're working so hard. All right? So last week we created a one-page financial plan. It had our key goals on it, the action steps that we're taking to get to our goals. And that's going to be the starting point for the review, really. It's important, I think, to realize that this isn't primarily an investment review. That might be a small part of the process. Instead, it's your plan that's being reviewed, and then your progress on that plan, your progress towards your goal. So really important that we remember what we're trying to achieve. Second thing we need to know is that there are primarily 3 reasons for reviewing a plan. Now, the longer I've done this job, as a financial planner, working with clients day to day to help them achieve their aims, the more I've kind of distilled the process really into the need to know and need to do stuff, just like the podcast. So as an advisor, I am responsible for ensuring that the advice I've given in the past to a client continues to be, quote, suitable, all right, for those clients as time goes on. So I've identified over the years that really there are only three reasons why any plan, any action plan that is set up correctly in the first place, really only three reasons why that plan might need to be addressed and reviewed, right? So here they are in reverse order of likelihood, right? These are in reverse order of the likelihood that you would need to change anything as a result of them, all right? First one is the economy and the markets. It is very, very rare that you would ever change part of your plan as a result of what's going on in the markets. In fact, actually, let me clarify that further. It's rare that you should change your portfolio as a result of markets, but you might need to address one of the other aspects of your plan due to maybe really adverse market conditions or whatever. More on that in a bit. But it's very rare that you would change your portfolio, the mix of your investments, right? Second reason you might want to review things is changes in legislation. Occasionally something changes in the personal finance world that might make you reassess things. So pensions freedoms, you remember those? April 2015. I spent the best part of a year talking to my clients at review time about how those changes in the pensions rules might affect their individual circumstances. Changes like that don't come along very often, but when they do, you might need to see how those changes reflect your plans. Number 3, changes in circumstances. Easily the number one reason, should totally have put these in the other order, the number one reason that your plans and your actions might need to change is because life simply happens, right? You lose your job or you get a promotion. You lose a partner or you find one. You have a health scare maybe. Each of these and loads more besides might mean that you need to reassess things. Okay, life, your circumstances, easily the number one reason why you might need to assess and address and review your plans. I think that actually is it though, really just those three things. So economy and markets, very rare that would change anything. Changes in legislation, they come along now and again, but pretty rarely. But easily the biggest reason is your circumstances having changed, which would require you to reassess things and trigger a review. The other thing we need to know is that there is such a thing as reviewing things too often, right? One bad habit that's easy to get into is to look at things too often. I'm an inherently lazy person, okay? Certainly when it comes to stuff that I don't want to do. That's probably true for most of us, isn't it? But when it comes to financial planning reviews, it's actually good to be lazy in the right sense. It's especially easy to obsess about things when you're starting out. You're excited about the progress that you're making, and if we're new to investing and wealth building, it can be really tempting to just keep checking in on your portfolio every day. The problem with that, though, is that can lead very often to second-guessing your approach, which is more than likely going to lead to unhelpful behavior, making changes for the sake of it, tweaking your portfolio when it just doesn't need it. Right? So don't check too often. I actually don't think it's necessary to formally review things more than once a year. The exception of that, of course, is if one of those three, particularly one of the big life events takes place, right? Then it might make sense to sit back and conduct a kind of interim review. New baby, changing job and your income, changing relationship, that kind of thing. If you think those things will have a bearing on your financial plans, then it's worth just putting in an interim review, okay? Final thing you need to know is that there is no sense at all in reviewing the things that you can't control. It's important to understand what you're not reviewing as much as what you are, and I'm sure you'll agree it makes no sense at all to waste time and energy looking too deeply into things that you can't do anything about. First of those, of course, has got to be markets. Depending on your level of interest, you might keep a passing eye on what's going on in stock markets and why. But remember, you're not going to react to those things anyway, so your review particularly doesn't need to spend too much time on those things. You also don't need to spend any time really thinking about what other people are doing, right? Even your FI buddies, maybe you're in a meetup group or an accountability group or something, and you're all working towards financial independence. You know, they've got their own life circumstances, their own timescales, their own attitudes to risk, their own approaches to investing. Don't obsess about what anybody else is doing. Stick to your own path and stick to the things that you can control. That's what we need to be reviewing. Okay? So 4 things there. Remember what you're trying to achieve. 3 reasons for reviewing your plan. Economy and markets, rarely. Changes in legislation, even a little bit less rarely, but changes in life circumstances, easily the biggest reason. Don't review things too often, and then don't review stuff you can't control. That's really a waste of time and energy. All right, with that stuff in mind then, let's have a look at what you should do and what a review should actually entail. Outstanding timing on the sound effect that time. Those of you watching on the videos, I'm continually fiddling with these earplugs, so they're going to have to go. They're going to have to go. I've just had enough, and I shall be ordering some more, so watch this space for that particularly exciting development. All right, first thing you need to do is to update your goals. All right, so we need to review the goals that we've set, because these are the whole point of the plan, right, is to achieve those goals. Remember, your goals need to be MT, measurable and time-bound. So the first thing to do is to reassess the number for each of your goals, right? How much are we working towards in pounds? Is that figure the same as it was when you set those goals? Have you now got your eye on a bigger and better camper van that you had when you first set the goal? Has your FI figure changed? Have you had maybe an inheritance or some other windfall that means you're going to need a smaller number? Or have you brought your timescale forward and therefore you might need a bigger number? Have your expenses fallen or risen because there's been a change in your family circumstances? So you might need to rethink your number in that context as well. So firstly, rethink the number, reassess it. Has the value of money, the size of the pot that you're working towards, has it changed? Then ask, have your timescales changed? So have you traded in the old man for a new chap who's 10 years younger and looks like a Strictly professional? If so, then your timescales might change, right? Because you might want to retire a bit earlier, spend some time with your new honky chap. More seriously, perhaps your health has taken a turn for the worse, and so you would want to bring forward your FI date as a result of that so that you can be free of work earlier. At the very least, remember, you're going to be a year closer to your goals than you were when you started out, and so your timescales are going to automatically readjust by 1 year at the very least. On a higher level still, you should ask whether the goals that you set last year are still relevant. Do they still excite you? Do they still resonate? Are both of you, if applicable, still on board with those goals? So update them, reassess your goals so that they remain fresh and accurate as we can be with these things anyway. Second thing we need to do is to check progress. So once the goals are updated, we need to check our progress that we're making towards them. So that's going to require some calculations, right? So we need to start with our current position, as we did last time, work out the difference between where we are and where we want to be, account for inflation. Remember, we did all this back in episode 3 of this season, so listen back for more detail rather than me repeat it here. It's essential not to get disheartened at this point, right? But that might not be easy because sometimes these numbers are big and sometimes you think, oh my gosh, you have to work it back and think about what you need to save, and it might seem like an insurmountable number. But it's quite possible that despite your saving throughout the year, that there's been a pullback in the markets and you're actually worse off this year than you were last year. Disaster, right? Well, you're a year closer to your goal and you seem to have taken a step backwards. That might seem disastrous, but it's not a disaster. This is going to be one of those occasions where you look again at your motivations for working towards the goals and you set your face towards them again. Remember, markets don't move in nice average straight lines, right? We're prepared for this. We understand volatility. We know that this happens. So the purpose of checking progress is to refocus our intention on what we need to do to reach our goals. Progress will be better or worse, and sometimes for reasons like markets outside your control. But if you didn't review things and you just left it for years before checking how you were doing, then any adjustments you might need to make might have to be pretty significant. Maybe you might have to double your savings rate at that point, whereas regular reviews might mean that any adjustments you need to make are more incremental and hence a little bit more palatable. So check your progress. And then number 3, decide on actions. So what about these adjustments? What adjustments might you need to make? Well, ultimately, it's going to come down to you need to adjust the things you can control. The main one of those being your savings rate. That's easily the biggest lever that you've got control of. So let's say that the markets have had a really rough year, all right? And you completed your calculations. You realize that actually from where you are now to where you need to be, you're going to have to find another 50 quid a month to save, right? Assuming you can find that, then you can satisfy yourself somewhat by knowing that the extra 50 quid you're going to be saving is going to be buying more shares while markets are down, so that's quite good. And what that actually could mean is that at next review, you could actually dial things back down again, right? I actually suggest that if you don't do that, actually, because if as a result of your calculations, you realize on one review that you're actually saving more than you need to, well, I wouldn't dial it back. I would keep the pedal to the metal. I would keep your savings where they are and hit your goal early. At least it builds in some protection against future market drops. I'm not planning to cover today about your investment approach because for the most part, it ought not to change. I've covered about how to review an investment portfolio in a previous episode, link in the notes to that. One key factor that's easy to do, though, is to rebalance your funds. So assuming you hold more than one fund, chances are the split between them has got out of whack over the past year because they just do move, right? One will do better than the others. Let's say you're following Lars Kreuer's model, right? You're holding 100% equity, tracker fund, balanced with some gilt in some form. So if share markets have been buoyant, then chances are that the equity portion of the portfolio has risen from what it started out as a proportion of the whole. So it can be tempting to just carry on enjoying the ride, right? Carry on, ride it up northwards. What you'll end up with, though, if you leave things unchecked, is a portfolio which bears little relation to what you started out with, one which is now too equity heavy compared to what you might have set up at outset. So we've got to be careful. Rebalancing is simply the process of resetting things to your starting position. And if you think about it, what that actually means is selling better performing assets to buy lesser performing ones, right? That's about as counterintuitive as it's possible to get. But it's a really important discipline for keeping any future nasty surprises at bay. It keeps the proportions of your portfolio where they should be at a comfortable level for you. What you need to be very careful of is looking at the performance over the past year and thinking that you need to increase the risk of your portfolio to try and hit your goals. I'm going to talk a little bit more about increasing your risk next week, but remember that volatility can be very uncomfortable, right? So don't increase risk beyond what you might be able to bear just so that you can possibly hit your goals. Far better, in my book, instead of tweaking your investments up in risk, far better to increase your savings rate instead. So you can keep the risk the same, but throw more money at it. Easier said than done sometimes, I understand that. So adjust your savings, rebalance. Really, those are the two practical actions you need to consider. Rebalance your portfolio and reassess your savings rate. Do you need to find more money? Hopefully, as time goes on and you do these reviews regularly, the amount of adjustment you need to do will be relatively small, and you won't get to the point where suddenly you realize you have to find another 500 quid a month, because you can do that, right? Number 4, take the opportunity to review your protection program. Remember, this is your foundation of insurance. It's what your wealth is being built upon. It ensures that if the worst happens to you, you die, or you can no longer work and bring in an income, which is the thing funding your wealth building. It means that your future financial plans need not be completely derailed. So it's really important, and the review should include this. It doesn't need to take long. You will know if some change in your circumstances will warrant a change in your protection program. If you think about the risks, what if you die? Well, will the current life cover that you have, both personally and available from work, will it pay off all your debt and provide for your loved ones, if applicable? Right? What if you can't work? Has your income increased such that you need to review your income protection? Have you changed your job? Do you need to tell your income protection insurer that? Have you put aside more cash? So maybe you can extend the deferred period on your income protection insurance. Maybe you should let your income provider know about all this stuff. And if in doubt, definitely call them and tell them. What if you get something really nasty but doesn't kill you, right? Your income protection insurance is the key cover there, but maybe some critical illness cover is needed now, right? Remember, I built an insurance need calculator. I'll make sure there's a link to that again in the notes. It's a spreadsheet you can use. You can just use it in Google Sheets. It's free and anybody can access it. And you put in your numbers about debt, whether you've got kids, how old they are, and all that sort of stuff. And it'll give you some suggested cover amounts, okay, like a sort of minimum, an okay level, and then a perfect max level. Compare what you've got already with that and take a view. Decide whether you need to review things, okay? And if you do, and you want to take action on that, give the guys at LifeSearch a call, meaningfulmoney.tv/LifeSearch. And if you call that number on there, then they'll know that I sent you. Full disclosure, that's an affiliate arrangement. So if you call LifeSearch and they end up arranging some life insurance for you, Meaningful Money gets a little bit of the commission. Doesn't cost you any more, though. So thank you in advance if you take advantage of that link. Finally, just set the date for the next review. All right? Stick it in your calendar with a reminder a day or two before so you can get the information that you need together. I imagine that won't take long for most of us. Commit to doing this regularly. Maybe choose the same day every year. I recently listened to The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins again, and he talks about reviewing his finances once a year on his wife's birthday. What a fun guy. Sure she loves that. Fantastic book, by the way. In fact, by the time this comes out, I'll have done a 5-Minute Friday review of that book. So highly recommended. The Simple Path to Wealth by J.L. Collins. Link in the notes. And really, folks, that is it. I wonder if you were expecting something more detailed and in-depth. But remember, we're not really talking about investing this season. We're talking about planning primarily. So it doesn't need to be any more complex than this. The investing is usually the bit you change last, really. Remember what we're doing? We're updating our goals, making sure they're still relevant, still fresh and exciting, and that the numbers are still correct. We're checking progress towards their goals and deciding whether we need to take on any actions off the back of that progress. Do we need to increase our savings rate? Do we need to rebalance our portfolio? We're taking the opportunity to just check again that the insurance program is correct and that we've got the right level of cover in place. Do we need to tweak it up? Do we need to reduce it because our circumstances have changed, right? Be intentional about that. And then we set the date for the next review and we do it all over again. All right, dead simple. When you complete your review, update your one-page financial plan, move on and do something more interesting. Right? It really is that simple. It doesn't need to be any more complex than that. Right? No matter how well off you are, well, within reason. Folks listening to this are ordinary people, right? We're not mega wealthy. We haven't got family offices and have sort of offshore tax havens and things like that. Most of us are just building wealth so that work becomes optional one day. And for us, our financial planning and reviewing our plans is really, really simple. Don't overcomplicate. All right. Okay, a couple of reviews. This one from Chris Batson. Love this very informative podcast, making finance more understandable with fantastic guests. Hooked and looking forward to more. Well done, Pete. The book is not bad at all either. Thank you, Chris. Slightly damned by faint praise there. It's not bad at all. Yuan 1984 says, great content. Been listening to Pete for over a year now and have learned so much. Whether you consider yourself an expert or financially illiterate, you'll pick up useful tips on how to achieve your financial future. Keep up the great work. Thank you, Chris and Yuan. Really appreciate you leaving me a review. If you want to do that, meaningfulmoney.tv/iTunes if you're of an Apple persuasion, but anywhere you listen to this podcast, leave me a review if you can. Next time, I think I promised you a trailer about the meetup, didn't I? So I just realised that's not in my script. So I better say it anyway. We are getting together. That's myself and Damien and Andy and the crew from Money to the Masses podcast. We're getting together in a pub called the Cross Keys in the City of London on Friday, November the 8th. Probably around 7 o'clock. Let's just say 7 o'clock. It'll be there or thereabouts. I'll be there from 7, right? So the Cross Keys in London, Friday, November the 8th. Come and have a drink, hang out with me and Damien. And we did it last year and we had a great night. It was a lot of fun. So come and join us, right? The Cross Keys, City of London, Friday, November the 8th, around about 7 o'clock. Look forward to it. We'll be somewhere near the front door because it is a massive pub, right? Somewhere near the front door. I'll be the idiot with a camera, probably. Okay, folks, that's it. Hope you enjoyed this session. Talked about reviewing your plans and your actions. Any comments, leave them at the show notes, meaningfulmoney.tv/pp7. You know what to do. Leave me a comment there and I'll do my best to answer. Hope you enjoyed it. Thanks so much for listening. I'll talk to you next week.